Hello dear students, how are you? I hope you all are doing great and you all are enjoying the online sessions. So, we are back with another interesting session for you all. And today's session is gonna leave you with a broad smile and something to think about. So, before I begin, let me ask you one question. Have you ever noticed certain faces or images formed in clouds or in certain, mountains, in the branches of trees? Have you ever noticed certain images? Yes? I guess you might say yes to it. Many a times we have seen that these works of nature are so mesmerizing and amazing that all these things force us to think how creative God is. And we are really amazed by the creation of the Almighty. And also, we have seen that in certain regions, such stories are carved out of these imaginations. Sometimes these stories are carried on from one generation to another generation, and they may take the form of folk tales, which are transported, which are communicated orally from one generation to another generation. Now, you all might be thinking, why am I talking about these images or these creations? Before I start, let's have a look at these beautiful images. I hope you will enjoy. Let's have a look. I hope you all have enjoyed these clips. Now, let me break the suspense. The chapter that I'm going to take up today is taken from your book Honeydew of grade 8th, and the name of the chapter is The Great Stone Face Part 1. Yes, the name of the chapter is The Great Stone Face Part 1. The chapter is written by Nathaniel Hawthorne. He was an American novelist, dark romantic, and short story writer. His work often focused on history, morality, and religion. His works included novels like Fanshawe, The Scarlet Letter, The House of Seven Gables, and his short stories include A Wonder Book for Girls and Boys, The Snow Image and Other Twice Told Tales, Tanglewood Tales, The Great Stone Face and Other Tales of the White Mountains. So, the chapter we are going to read today has been taken from his short story collection. It is a story about a young boy whose name is Ernest. Ernest is an unschooled boy and he lives in a valley. He has a strong affinity towards a stone face, a face that has been formed as a work of nature. Also, he tries to talk to that stone face, and this stone face serves as a philosopher, guide, and teacher to Ernest. How this happens? Let's try to understand through the chapter. And also, this chapter is a classic piece of American fiction, juxtaposing mellowness of humanism with magnificence of art. So, without much ado, let's begin to read the chapter The Great Stone Face Part 1. Before you read, seen from a distance, hilltops and huge rocks seem to assume various shapes. They may resemble an animal or a human figure. People attribute stories to these shapes. Some stories come true, others don't. The Great Stone Face is one such shape that reminds the inhabitants of the valley of a prophecy. What was it? Did it come true? So, in order to know these answers, let's read the chapter. One afternoon, when the sun was going down, a mother and her little boy sat at the door of their cottage, talking about the great stone face. They had only to lift their eyes, and there it was, plain to be seen, though miles away, with the sunshine brightening all its features. And what was the great stone face? The great stone face was a work of nature formed on the perpendicular side of a mountain by some immense rocks which had been thrown together so that when viewed at a proper distance, they resembled the features of a human face. If the spectator approached too near, he lost the outline of the enormous face and could see only a heap of gigantic rocks piled one upon another. But seen from a distance, the clouds clustering about it, the great stone face seemed positively to be alive. It was the belief of many people that the valley owed much of its fertility to the benign face that was continually beaming over it. A mother and her little boy, as we said earlier, sat at the door of their cottage, gazing at the great stone face and talking about it. The child's name was Ernest. "Mother," said he, while the great stone face smiled on him, "I wish that it could speak, for it looks so very kindly that its voice must indeed be pleasant. If I ever see a man with such a face, I should love him very much." "If an old prophecy should come to pass," answered his mother, "we may see a man sometime with exactly such a face as that." "What prophecy do you mean, dear mother?" eagerly inquired Ernest. "Please tell me about it." So his mother told him a story that her own mother had told her when she herself was younger than little Ernest, that at some future day a child should be born near here who was destined to become the greatest and the noblest person of his time, and whose face in manhood should bear an exact resemblance to the great stone face. Many still had faith in this old prophecy, but others took it to be nothing but idle talk. At all events, the great man of the prophecy had not yet appeared. So, dear students, we just read that in the story there's a little boy called Ernest who lives in a valley along with his mother, and in front of his cottage he can see a beautiful work of nature. The work of nature here means that there's a mountain and it has the great work of stones. The stone work has been done by nature itself. The stones formed on a perpendicular side of the mountain seems to appear like a face, or it seems to appear like a human figure. Now let's see what is this all about. One afternoon, a mother with her little son Ernest was sitting at the door of their cottage. They were talking about the great stone face, and it was clearly visible in the bright sunshine. Thousands of people lived there in the valley. Everybody there in the valley considered that stone face quite auspicious, and they believed that the fertility of the valley was due to this great stone face. And this great stone face was a work of nature. Some huge rocks jointly looked like the features of a human face from a distance. It also looked alive. The giant face smiled on Ernest and looked kindly. Ernest was so much attracted toward this face that he wished to hear its pleasant voice. He desired to see a man with such a face in order to love him dearly. Ernest's mother reminded him of a prophecy. By prophecy we mean something that is related to future prediction. So in the story there is a prophecy related to this great stone face. Ernest's mother shared this prophecy with Ernest. The prophecy regarding the stone face was that in near future a child would be born there, and he would become the greatest and the noblest person of his time. In manhood, his face would bear true likeness to the great stone face. This prophecy was told to Ernest's mother by his maternal grandmother. It means when Ernest's mother was as young as Ernest, her mother told about this prophecy, and the same prophecy was told to Ernest by his own mother. We have already understood that sometimes these prophecies become part and parcel of the folk tales, and it has been further communicated from the maternal grandmother of Ernest to Ernest's mother, and now Ernest's mother is sharing the same with Ernest. We see that certain prophecies are passed from one generation to another generation, and people wait for it to be true. As per the prophecy, people waited for such a person, but in vain. However, the little boy Ernest hoped to live and see the man with the great stone face. His mother strengthened his fancy, and Ernest keenly waited for the day for this prophecy to be true. Let's read ahead. "Oh, mother," cried Ernest, clapping his hands above his head, "I do hope that I shall live to see him." His mother was an affectionate and thoughtful woman. It was proper, she thought, not to discourage the fanciful hopes of her little boy. So she said to him, "Perhaps you may." And Ernest never forgot the story that his mother told him. It was always in his mind whenever he looked upon the great stone face. He spent his childhood in the log cottage where he was born and was dutiful to his mother and helpful to her in many things, assisting her much with his little hands and more with his loving heart. In this manner, from a happy yet often pensive child, he grew up to be a mild and quiet youth. Ernest had no teacher, but the great stone face became one to him. When the work of the day was over, he would gaze at it for hours until he began to imagine that those vast features recognized him and gave him a smile of kindness and encouragement. About this time, there were a rumor throughout the valley that the great man who was to bear a resemblance to the great stone face had appeared at last. It seems that many years before, a young man had left the valley and settled at a distant seaport. Gather Gold, which was his name, had set up as a shopkeeper and, being sharp in business matters, had become so very rich that it would have taken him 100 years only to count his wealth. In time, he thought of his native valley and decided to go back there and end his days where he had been born. Ernest had been deeply stirred by the idea that the great man, the noble man and the man of prophecy, after so many ages of delay, was at length to be seen in his native valley. While the boy was still gazing up the valley, one day, and imagining that the great stone face returned his gaze, the noise of wheels was heard, and a crowd of people cried, "Here comes the great Mr. Gather Gold." A carriage drawn by 4 horses dashed around the turn of the road. Within it, thrust partly out of the window, appeared the face of an old man with yellow skin. "The very image of the great stone face," shouted the people. "Sure enough, the old prophecy is true. Here we have the great man at last." And what greatly puzzled Ernest, they seemed actually to believe that here was the likeness which they spoke of. He turned away sadly from the wrinkled shrewdness of that unpleasant face and gazed up the valley, where the stone face seemed to say, "He will come, fear not, Ernest, the man will come." So, dear students, let's understand. Ernest expressed his desire to live to see the man, and his mother, loving and caring as she was, did not want to disappoint him. So she said, perhaps that he might live that long. Since that day, Ernest never forgot about the prophecy and thought about it whenever he glanced at the valley. Ernest was an obedient and hard-working child who helped his mother. One fine day, a word spread across the town that a son of the valley named Gather Gold had settled out of it to establish as a shopkeeper, wanted to spend his last days in his native valley. In this story, we came to know that a person named Gather Gold has decided to return to his valley, and he was the native of this valley. He was so wealthy that it would have taken him 100 years to count his wealth. A rumor was spread that he is the man being spoken of in the prophecy. People were very excited to see him. Everyone except Ernest believed that Mr. Gather Gold bore the likeness of the great stone face. However, Ernest was disappointed. He was still waiting for someone else to be as the great stone face, And when he looked upon at the great stone face, it seemed that the great stone face was giving him a message that still the man has to come. I hope you have understood the text read so far. Based on your understanding, let's try to attempt certain true and false. Here we go. The first one is, Ernest along with his mother lived on the outskirts of a big city. True or false?
It's false. He used to live in a valley.
Very good. Next, the great stone face was the work of nature formed by the rocks. True or false?
It's true.
Very good. Next, it was the belief of many people that the fertility of the valley was due to this great stone face. What do you think? Is it a true statement or a false statement?
It's true.
Very good. Next, Ernest has no faith in this prophecy. True or false?
It's false. He had a strong belief.
Very good. Next, Gather Gold was the man whose face resembled with the great stone face. What do you think? Is it true or false? Try to recall the story and answer.
It's false.
Yes, others believed that his face resembled, but Ernest never believed that. Let's try some of the MCQs. The first one is, the great stone face was, options are A, just close to Ernest's cottage, B, miles away from it, C, behind the cottage, or D, in front of the cottage. Yes, select the correct answer.
It's D, in front of the cottage.
Very good. The great stone face was in front of the cottage. Next, the great stone face was made by, options are A, nature, B, villagers, C, Ernest, or D, Ernest's forefathers. Yes, tell me.
It's A, nature.
Yes, the great stone face was made by nature. We have read in the story that it was a great work of nature. Next, many people believed that the valley was fertile because, options are A, because of the good climate, B, of the river, C, of the grace of the great stone face, or D, the soil was good. Yes, what do you think? What is the correct option?
It's C, because of the grace of the great stone face.
Yes, people believed that because of the grace of this great stone face, the valley was fertile. Next, the old prophecy was that one day, complete the sentence. Options are, the great stone face would disappear, B, the great stone face would come to life, C, the great stone face would cause havoc to the valley, or D, a man with that face would appear in the valley. Yes, what is the correct option?
It's D, a man with that face would appear in the valley.
Yes, it was a belief that with the passage of time, a man with that face would appear in the valley. Next, Ernest's mother was, options are A, his only teacher, B, affectionate and thoughtful, C, a well-read woman, or D, a famous woman. Yes?
It's B, affectionate and thoughtful.
Yes, Ernest's mother was very affectionate and thoughtful. Next, when the earnest work of the day was over, he, options are, prayed to God for a long time, B, read a lot, C, helped the villagers, or D, would stand for hours before the great stone face. Yes?
It's D, would stand for hours before the great stone face.
Yes, he used to gaze at the stone face as if he is asking certain questions and the stone face is giving those answers. Next, Gather Gold was a dash. Options are a rich man, powerful man, great soldier, or kind man. Yes?
It's A, a rich man.
Yes, Gather Gold was a rich man. Now, as the title of the chapter is related to stone, so let's try to learn some of the phrases related to the word stone and use them in the sentences. So, let's first read out the phrases given in column A and the different meanings given in column B. First phrase is stepping stone, another is leave no stone unturned, then rolling stone gathers no moss, next killing two birds with one stone, another stone's throw, and the last is heart of stone. And the meaning given in column B are to search thoroughly for something or to work hard for something to make it happen. Next, a person who never settles in one place will never be successful. Next, something used as a way to progress. Next, a short distance roughly equivalent to how far a person can throw a stone. Next, a stone-hearted character, stern or cruel nature. Last, to achieve or carry out two things with one effort or to do two things in one action. So let's try to match the correct phrase with the correct meaning. Can we try?
Yes, ma'am.
First one is stepping stone. Yes, try to solve.
Something used as a way to progress.
Very good. Next, leave no stone unturned.
To search thoroughly for something or to work hard for something to make it happen.
Very good. Next, rolling stone gathers no moss.
A person who never settles in one place will never be successful.
Very good. Next, kill two birds with one stone.
To achieve or carry out two things with one effort or to do two things in one action.
Very good. Next is stone's throw.
A short distance roughly equivalent to how far a person can throw a stone.
Very good. Last is heart of stone.
A stone-hearted character or stern or cruel nature.
Very good. Now let's try to use these phrases in the given sentences. The first one is, he had gone to London on a business trip. While there, he dashed and visited his relatives as well. I will leave up to you. Let's try to solve. First, let's read out all. The course will be a dash to another career. His workplace is dash from his home. Next, despite several warnings, he always cheats in class. This shows that dash, the villain in the play had a dash. Next, in order to raise the funds for the concert, he dash. Let's try to fill with the correct phrase. First one, yes. Who will try? Mehak? Okay, let's try. He had gone to London on a business trip. While there, he
killed two birds with one stone and visited his relatives as well.
Very good. It means he went to London for a business trip and at the same time he also visited his relatives. Next, the course will be a
stepping stone to another career.
Very good. This course will help to progress in another career. Next, his workplace is
a stone's throw away from his home.
It means very near to his home. Next, despite several warnings, he always cheats in class. This shows that
rolling stone gathers no moss.
Yes, it means he has no effect. Next, the villain in the play had
a heart of stone.
Very good. Next, in order to raise the funds for the concert, he
left no stone unturned.
Amazing. I hope you all have understood the meanings of the phrases related to stone.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Now, let's do another interesting activity. We have to add ly to each of the following adjectives and then we have to use them in the given blanks. The words given are perfect, near, kind, pleasant and eager. Can we try this?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, the first one is, why didn't you turn up at the meeting? We all were dash waiting for you. Can you try this?
Yes, ma'am.
It will be
eagerly.
Very good. We have added ly to the word eager and now we say that we all were waiting eagerly. Next, dash write your name and address in capital letters. Yes?
Kindly.
Very good. The word was kind and we added ly to the word kind and we made it kindly. Next, I was dash surprised to see him at the railway station. I thought he was not coming.
Pleasantly.
Yes, when we added ly to the word pleasant, it became pleasantly. Next, it is dash believable that I am not responsible for this mess.
Perfectly.
Yes, and the word was?
Perfect.
Very good. So we made it perfectly. Next, he fell over the step and dash broke his arm.
Nearly.
Yes, the near word when added ly becomes nearly, it means almost. He had broken his arm. I hope you all have enjoyed this activity.
Yes, ma'am.
I hope you have understood the text and the story read so far is clear to you. Before I end today's session, I would like to leave you with the question, and with the thought, do you really think that prophecies come out to be true? You can discuss this with your elders, parents, grandparents, and so on. Also, I guess in our lives, we all have heard about certain prophecies. Even Indian mythology has number of such instances that are based on prophecy. For example, one such prophecy that I want to quote here is that a saint lady called Ahilya, who was turned to stone, and there was a prophecy that once Lord Rama's feet would touch her, she would return back to life. And as per Ramayana, she actually came back to life after Lord Rama's feet touched her. So there are many such more examples. Discuss with your grandparents or parents and elders and write about any 2 or 3 prophecy that you have heard. And also write that do you think these prophecy actually come out to be true or not. I hope you will discuss this task at home and write about it. We will meet again to read further what happens in the story. Till then, stay safe, stay happy and happy learning.